Hi and welcome to this introduction to Dancing in the Abyss. If you've been with us before, we were calling it Dancing with the Dark Goddess. This is a continuation of the work that we started to do in 2022, where we had webinars looking at the asteroids. However, what we felt was that we didn't necessarily have that much time to integrate, have that much time to be in ritual, to be with them. The importance of allowing the Dark Goddess the time as well, and the layers of what she wants to do in us, with us, and in between us. So that is what we are going to do with this trilogy, where we are going down to the underworld, but in different ways, because there's also a very important thing with Dark Goddesses that has to do with uniqueness. They have some similar themes, but they are also very unique, each one of them. If we go back to the mythology and looking at them, the Roman or the Greek or the Sumerian way of looking at that goddess, she might even have different names. So what you're going to be able to do with what you're receiving is to feel into, oh, is it more Venus or Aphrodite, or is it more Inanna? Like, these are faces of the same goddess, but there might be a resonance from your own timeline, your own DNA, your own wherever you've been in past or parallel timelines. So knowing inside of you what is for you in this. And there might be things that you're not receiving. We're giving you the information, and then we're going to have 2 integration weeks. We'll come back the following week, and we're going to do a bit more of ritual around it, a more like the yin way. And with that, I'm going to leave it over to you, Alison.
Yeah, thank you, Bella, and welcome everyone. It's so amazing to be here. I always feel so humbled by these goddesses because even though I've been working with them and with myself for 25 years, they still show me the most mangled parts of myself that need tending to. And they help me change the way I approach myself and other women, essentially, but also I think they shape how I think about men as well, and what men can face in women. I think is a huge edge of a chasm that we're at right now as well. And it feels like a really urgent call. I came up with this name actually because my attractor is the 29, which is called the Abyss. And I was reading Hilary Barrett's book on the I Ching, and it had, some of you may have seen these amazing things she says about this chasm, this abyss experience. We can't avoid it, whether it's a death or an illness, a dip in our life in some way. It might be a coming to a lull in work, or one that I'm in right now is actually, I've been in a relationship for a few years and it's been really intense and romantic, and then it's going into something a bit of a lull, you might say, or not that kind of peak experience. And these are the experiences that we go through in life, death, rebirth. And what we're going to look at tonight, we're going to be doing an amazing story called Skeleton Woman to begin our journey, is that if we refuse to see Skeleton Woman, if we refuse to work with her, it's like our life becomes constricted and ossified and our vital energy dies. And actually the thing we're most afraid of happens when we do it to ourselves, whereas when we can take this leap of courage to jump into the abyss and dance. We'll be meeting Skeleton Woman tonight, but we'll be meeting Medusa and Persephone and Inanna. These are all goddesses who are skilled in their negotiation with the underworld and with this chasm, this abyss. And the thing I feel as well is that as we approach 2027 and the big changeover from the cross of planning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix, we will have even less choice of facing the abyss, because we are collectively on that edge and we can either jump in and actually learn to dance in it. That's what I would like. I can't say I'm always there, because half the time I feel like I'm on this edge, terrified and then something happens, some book comes along, or a story, or I look at an astrology chart or a gene key, and the energy transforms, and I'm more accepting, embracing. And that's what we really want from this journey together, is for all of us and you that out there to embrace this dance in the abyss. And through doing it, it feels like it releases an incredible amount of physical energy in our body, like vitality. If you're interested in deep love, then I really feel this is the path to deep love, a kind of fierce love where you go through the ebbs and flows, and you don't just have these kind of peak nice romantic experiences, but you learn to journey with, whether it's a lover or a friend or a husband, we're going deep into the relationship field with these dark goddesses as well. And in the area of work, they help us to unlock creativity and genius, because while these parts of ourselves are shut down, they can't be accessed. So as soon as we open them, it's like we did Pandora, one of the first one. It is like opening Pandora's box to find the gifts inside, the treasures, as well as the shadow material. The other thing we thought about a lot is having an embodied experience and being inside the story. So what I want to do this time, I'm going to do Skeleton Woman tonight, but we're going to do storytelling. So bring you into the story of Medusa, into the story of Persephone, and into the story of Inanna. So it's almost like you're not just listening with your intellect to the story, but you're inside it. That feels really important. That's where the magic is. And yeah, we're going to be doing some breath work, just quite short breath works, but these are very powerful. This new word, biohacking, into our physiology, so that we can calm the nervous system and be able to access these dark goddess archetypes better. And then we're going to be offering you some rituals as well, and conversations. So we've got a whole week where we will have sharing. And so we've thought a lot about this course, and we've really listened to feedback from the other two. We've doubled the size of it in terms of creating more spaciousness and integration time. And it's essentially only $10 more. So you're getting a really good deal if you sign up to this. I think the way we're doing it is what's important as well. As Bella said, we've both been in a group studying asteroids and working with asteroids for a number of years. And this is the difficulty. Like, we're on Zoom as well. How do we embody it and not just receive it as intellectual information that doesn't really go anywhere? It's, oh yeah, that was quite interesting, but now I'll flip over to this new thing. We want you to really know these goddesses like we know them, and the way that they've changed and enriched our lives. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this book, Women Who Run with Wolves, by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. So this story is called Skeleton Woman, and it's an Inuit story. So it comes from the same part of the world that Sedna comes from. Clarissa Pinkola Estes got the story from an Inuit woman called Mary Ukalat. And I want to just honor those people. They live in a very far north very cold climate. And the story is set there. It's so perfect. It's a real kind of Halloween winter story. And all these goddesses, actually, they're all going to take us on these very wintry journeys. You can join in my fire behind, it's winter fire. Okay, so I invite you to settle down. Let's close your eyes if you want to, and just really open your inner ear to hearing the words of the story, to being inside the story, to let it touch your bones and your heart and the very fabric of your being. Let the words move inside and heal you. Skeleton woman. She had done something of which her father disapproved, although no one any longer remembered what it was. But her father had dragged her to the cliffs and thrown her over and into the sea. There the fish ate her flesh away and plucked out her eyes. As she lay under the sea, her skeleton turned over and over in the currents. One day a fisherman came fishing. In truth, many came to this bay once. But this fisherman had drifted far from his home place and did not know that the local fishermen stayed away, saying this inlet was haunted. The fisherman's hook drifted down through the water and caught, of all places, in the bones of skeleton woman's rib cage. The fisherman thought, oh, now I've really got a big one. Now I really have one. In his mind, he was thinking of how many people this great fish would feed, how long it would last, how long he might be free from the chore of hunting. And as he struggled with this great weight on the end of the hook, the sea was stirred to a thrashing froth, and his kayak bucked and shook, for she who was beneath struggled to disentangle herself. And the more she struggled, the more she tangled up in the line. No matter what she did, she was inexorably dragged upward, tugged up by the bones of her own ribs. The hunter had turned to scoop up his net, so he did not see her bold head rise above the waters. He did not see the little coral creatures glinting in the orbs of her skull. He did not see the crustaceans on her old ivory teeth. When he turned back with his net, her entire body, such as it was, had come to the surface and was hanging from the tip of his kayak by her long front teeth. Ah! Cried the man, and his heart fell into his knees. His eyes hid in terror on the back of his head. His ears blazed red. Ah! He screamed and knocked off the prow with his oar and began paddling like a demon towards shoreline. And not realizing she was tangled in his line, he was frightened all the more, for she appeared to stand upon her toes while chasing him all the way to shore. No matter which way he zigged his kayak, she stayed right behind, and her breath rolled over the water in clouds of steam, and her arms flailed out as though to snatch him down to the depths. Ah! He wailed as he ran aground. In one leap, he was out of his kayak, clutching his fishing stick and running, and the coral white corpse of skeleton woman still snagged in the fishing line, bumpety bumped right behind him. Over the rocks he ran, and she followed. Over the frozen tundra he ran, and she kept right up. Over the meat laid out to dry he ran, cracking it to pieces as his mucklucks bore down. Through it all she kept right up. In fact, grabbed some of the frozen fish as she was dragged behind. This she began to eat, for she had not gorged in a long time. Finally, the man reached his snow house and dove right into the tunnel, and on his hands and knees scrabbled his way into the interior. Panting and sobbing, he lay there in the dark, his heart a drum, a mighty drum. Safe at last, oh, so safe. Yes, safe, thank the gods. Raven, yes, thank Raven. Yes, an all-bountiful Sedna, safe at last. Imagine when he lit his whale oil lamp, there it lay in a tumble on his snow floor, one heel over her shoulder, one knee inside her rib cage, one foot over her elbow. He could not say later what it was. Perhaps the firelight softened her features, or the fact that he was a lonely man. But a feeling of some kindness came into his breathing, and slowly he reached out his grimy hands and, using words softly like mother to child, began to untangle her from the fishing line. Oh, na, na, na. First he untangled the toes, then the ankles. Oh, na, na, na. On and on he worked into the night, until dressing her in furs to keep her warm. Skeleton woman's bones were all in the order a human should be. He felt into his leather cuffs for his flint and used some of his hair to light a little more fire. He gazed at her from time to time as he oiled the precious wood of his fishing stick and rewound the gut line. And she in the furs uttered not a word. She did not dare, lest this hunter take her out and throw her down to the rocks and break her bones to pieces utterly. The man became drowsy, slid under his sleeping skins, and soon was dreaming. And sometimes, as humans sleep, you know a tear escapes from the dreamer's eye. We never know what sort of dream causes this, but we know it is either a dream of sadness or longing. And this is what happened to the man. The skeleton woman saw the tear glisten in the firelight, and she became suddenly so thirsty. She tinkled and clanked and crawled over to the sleeping man and put her mouth to his tear. The single tear was like a river, and she drank and drank until her many years-long thirst was slaked. While lying beside him, she reached inside the sleeping man and took out his heart, the mighty drum. She sat up and banged on both sides of it. Boom, boom. As she drummed, she began to sing out, flesh. And the more she sang, the more her body filled out with flesh. She sang for hair and good eyes and nice fat hands. She sang the divide between her legs and breasts long enough to wrap around for warmth and all the things a woman needs. And when it was all done, she also sang the sleeping man's clothes off and crept into his bed with him, skin against skin. She returned the great drum, his heart, to his body. And that is how they awakened, wrapped one around the other, tangled from their night. In another way now, a good and lasting way. The people who cannot remember how she came to her first ill fortune say her and the fisherman went away and were consistently well fed by the creatures she had known in her life underwater. The people say that it is true, and that is all they know. So I invite you just to take a nice deep breath. And invite your mangled skeleton woman into the circle. See her in the soft firelight. And just notice where you are in yourself. Are you ready to start untangling her with great care and compassion to tend to her mending? Perhaps you feel afraid. Perhaps you just want to watch and breathe and wait. There's a part of the story where Clarissa Pinkola Estes talks about the meaning. I just want to read you this a little bit. If lovers insist on a life of forced gaiety, perpetual pleasuramas, and other forms of deadening intensity, if they insist on sexual donner and blitz, thunder and lightning, or a torrent of the delectable and no strife at all, there goes the life, death, life, nature right over the cliff, drowned in the sea again. It's interesting, this is how it was playing out for me in a love affair, but it might be something different. It's this willingness to dance in the abyss that is the invitation here. And that if we refuse the dance, it's like we are the father that throws the daughter off the cliff. So this is our work. We are that man. We are that hunter in ourselves who does the mending, the unpicking, the soul work. So to give us time to integrate the story and just be with it, invite us into a breath. This is a really simple breath. That's very powerful too. It attunes the brain waves to the frequency of the heart waves, opens the eye of the heart, the eye of compassion. Okay, so we're going to invite you to follow me if you want to. So we're going to breathe in for 4 through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then out through the pursed lips for 4. And in and out through pursed lips. And put our fingers into Gya Mudra. It helps to just hold the energies. So keep the breath going in that same rhythm of 4 seconds in, 4 out. This breath is like the undulating waves on the sea as they rise, breathing in. And as they ebb, breathing out. I'm just going to stay here quietly for a couple of minutes, just really feeling into the story, what resonated with you, allowing it to deepen into your being. And feel the faster brain waves of your mind slowing down into this beautiful undulating wave of the heart. Pulling all your energy into the single eye of the heart. And perceiving through this eye the huge psychic force of skeleton woman with you. She's keeping pace with all of us. She's not letting go. She wants to dance with us. She wants to vitalize our lives, our relationships, our work. She wants us to live in that uncertainty and incredible creativity of being connected to the source that comes from this dance in the abyss. Just noticing as well in your memory any parts of the story that were especially colorful to you, that caught your imagination. And taking a final few deep breaths. And gently coming back, opening our eyes. I honor all of your skeleton women within you. Thank you.
So what I'm tuning into is the visceral connection with this. How there can be a story that we're listening to, and at the same time it's so visceral, and then bringing the breath as well. And the breath work is actually ritual, because every time that we are breathing out, we are coming deeper into embodiment. And every time we're breathing in, we're connecting more to spirit and souls. We have the possibility to bring this into the homework or the preparation for those of you that are going to come into the abyss with us before we end today. I can also feel the ocean, the breathing in and the breathing out. Paula, you were saying you were struck by that she reached inside the sleeping man and removed his heart. Yeah. For me, it was actually at the end when she sang away his clothes, and it's like the horror changed to love, or what was remaining was love and intimacy. And again, that visceral feeling of the skin against the skin.
Yeah,
And
I
I
love
feel
that bit about waking up entangled together, skin against skin. It does feel like real intimacy.
and also that there is never too late, or there's never too little flesh and too much cold in order to come back and put the nurturing of the flesh into manifestation again. It doesn't even matter if somehow we had projections of who was a monster and who was a hunter. At the end of the day, there is a possibility to come back beyond the projections and identifications, and I guess give into love, give into the warmth of being human. That is for me the paradox of the dark goddess, that you might think that you are facing the dark and that you're basically never going to be able to climb up from the abyss. But actually, by going there, like you were saying, Alison, the soul gets nurtured. And when the soul gets nurtured, something that's beyond our comprehension and what we can conceptualize becomes alive through us. And the soul and the body and love are connected as some kind of trinity. So for me, in a Scorpio sense, I always say, I want to face what's there. I want to see the truth. I think that with the dark goddess, instead of hearing somebody telling you have to face everything and that's the way out from the shadow, this kind of work is different because it gets to happen in your own pace. It gets to happen in your own vessel. I can also see how this is not what we are taught to do, what we do in society. This weekend, there was somebody who had a very defined ego with the 45 from the throat and the 21 in the ego center. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was completely taking in that energy and also amplified it. I felt that determination and the willpower of destruction, that there was this energy in me that wouldn't hesitate a single moment before annihilating or killing what was on the other side. And with the amplification, it was very difficult for me to hold, because the only thing I wanted to do was to basically bite, put my teeth through the ligaments and the skin, and just allow all that to come out. I was speaking to two people saying, I've never felt this before. It's so intense to feel the ego manifest your energy. And feeling even the heat kind of, and they were saying, oh, maybe just go around the neighborhood, maybe just go and walk. And then what always comes from me is like, no, this is what I work with. This is what I speak to people about. This is the magic of it. And knowing, and that's the same with you, Alison, working with the dark goddess and the mythology, like we get to live it in our skin. And if in that moment we say, no, I'm going to make it a little lighter, is we are not walking our talk. So for me also, as we're doing this, it's very connected to human design. It's very connected to the gene keys through the shadow. And especially knowing that what was striking you in this story or in the mythology, it can be those things that are the not self in the body graph. For me, it's often very difficult to get to my anger. I can do it in a kind of primal sense, and it has an expression when I do that. It's very seldom that it's directed to another human being. And that was actually quite scary to feel through me, that it was directed. And it was that feeling of the ego center. It's two bears are meeting in the forest. There's no little thought of, should I kill this other bear or not? It's just like that heart muscle that wants to continue pumping. And to know that's part of all of us. And I can try to think I'm better or more evolved, or I don't have that. But this is really for me what the dark goddess says. She says, we have it all. And dare to dance with it. And then I could feel in the 24 hours after that, there was so much tenderness that came through me. There's so many layers. And there was even a process that I feel was connected. I am not completely sure because of the mystery of the dark goddess, but I could feel the sacredness of the womb. I could feel that energy starting to know and to allow the sacredness of it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing when these dark goddess energies, it's like you're going to walk your talk. If you want to do this, you're going to be tested, especially when it's you and I facilitating it. I think it's less so when you join the circle, though you will definitely get some tests. And it's really come in the last few days for me. And it's, am I going to tend to this mangled me, or am I just going to, God knows what, like, go and swim away in the sea, or just completely destroy my life? As it gets that intense. And it was quite funny because my partner handed me this huge ball of wire, and we'd only just bought it, but it was completely tangled up. And I basically had to sit there and untangle it. And there it was. I had to sit and patiently untangle this. And I was thinking all the time about Skeleton Woman. And yeah, I will do this. It's going to take me time. And it was weird. As soon as I would lose attention, I'd lose the end of it. And yeah, and in terms of gene keys, so the closest this would be is Sedna archetype, very similar stories. And she's in the 20th gene key, which is all about presence. And really, it's these dark goddesses don't ask for us to be perfect and healed and great works, great relationships, great. In fact, it's the opposite to that. If we're trying to live everything great all the time, we don't let this energy into our lives, and we actually lose out a huge amount as humans by not allowing it in. So yes, when we do Medusa, we're going to look at the discovery gene keys for Medusa. Inanna and Ishtar we'll look at together, and Ani as well. So sometimes there's almost always the discovery gene key is always really interesting and gives us a flavor of what it is, because the moment that they're discovered, the moment is they're born into human consciousness as well. So we'll look at the kind of timing of that, when they were discovered. And so there'll be a bit of technical information, there'll be storytelling, ritual. And it's, yeah, we really want to play with this and we want you to come. So.
Yeah, and for those of you that haven't been with us before, so the human design way or the gene key way of doing it is that thanks to Kim Gould's work, there is her free website, haraka.io, where you can actually create your chart for free and you can look up where are those asteroids in your natal chart. And then together with the energy of the mythology of the goddess, and also, like we just said, where she's discovered, and your own personal activations, it can say so much. And you're probably going to discover, some of you, that you have, for example, conjunctions. Maybe one of those that Alison just mentioned are conjunct your sun or conjunct your purpose sphere. And then that becomes its own wormhole, its own abyss to dive into. And again, what we want to do here is not just to go to the mental gymnastics of that, but to start to feel it. What does it mean that my life's work or my mission is together with this archetype, this goddess, for example? And then that becomes an inquiry that you start to walk and talk. That is the path that we're going towards, and the playground as well. I can see as well that as we're working with this, having just come out of the sixth line of Gene Key 44, where the sun is, I've started to see in the last few months how there is a rearrangement of the synarchy of the geometry of other beings. So the soul fractal that we came in to remember and find in this lifetime, I believe that we haven't found all of them yet. And some of them, maybe what Alison is saying, there is a certain walking for a period of time with somebody, and then that relationship ends or changes because we are growing and learning. So to also see that somehow when we go into this intense way of living, not everybody's ready. And it is possible that the people that aren't ready kind of step away. And it doesn't have to be in an upheaval or in a way that is chaotic. It can just be simple. It's done, and there is something new that's waiting. So it's an inner alchemy that we start with, and as we are daring to walk the mythology, it also becomes an outer alchemy through the resonance that we will have with some people and not with others. And it allows us to smell out who's right, and discern who's right, which is that splenic awareness where the 44, for example, is living. And also the 32 that's there, that's also the smell, which is knowing what's worth preserving in our lives and what needs to go.
Yeah, and I do feel actually that when you do enter into it, it is something really deeply to do with the synarchy field, because it feels like until there's that courage of the merging with these powerful archetypes, that we're holding back. We're like living in the safe little world and we want to control it. I'm saying we, this is me as well. My mind's trying to control this, and this kind of pushes us through some sort of fabric, boom, out into life. And it can be like so joyful and so blissful and so full of vital energy and creativity as well, like amazing ideas and inspirations. And so it's so worth doing as well. It's so worth, and there is a place beyond the fear of the abyss. We wouldn't have called it Dance in the Abyss unless I thought we could really do that. And half the time I'm like, not the abyss again. You know? But then I get my head around it and it's, I must remember to stop resisting this. Because it is very blissful.
Yeah, and that's the story that you're telling too. There is horror with the skeleton and everything, and then at the end there is that warmth and that intimacy that is created as the feminine, the masculine are coming together, and the parts of us. So the reward is there. And that's what I felt too when I dared to even share about that energy that came through me, that it wasn't easy to face the ego determination and the anger. And for me, there is this continuous dance of polarity. And that, for those of you, we did put the link to the book as well, The Dancing with the Wolves, where we first and foremost speak about the inner alchemy, not the masculine on the outside, but what is that masculine that is part of us, so that the inner marriage in ourselves become alive and nurtured first. So much of what I do and speak to is about those polarities, that is the inner marriage, which is, we could say, is the quadrinity, because we have a dark feminine, a dark masculine, but we also have a light feminine and a light masculine. So they are working together. And only just what we did in the breath work is a way of breathing in and breathing out. Like, is combining those two energies, the receptive and the active, we could say. So for me, the homework that I would invite you to, and some of you have worked with Liberated, which is the pathway of individuation, which is symbolically through the gene keys, that middle pillar, that energy circulation that we have inside of us, to use something that can make you come back down into your body, back into the visceral. What I use the tennis ball for, and you could either sit just on something, a yoga mat, or you could have a cushion under, because it is quite a big ball, right? Relatively. So you would put this under your perineum, which is like the muscle that is between the genitals and the anus. And you can sit cross-legged, for example, or again on a cushion, and normal on a chair if you don't want to have that intensity. And then I would like you to do this when the veil is thin. So either first thing in the morning or last thing before you go to bed, for 5 minutes, and you just sit and you go back to a similar breathing, maybe a little bit more of a natural breathing. So if it takes too much concentration, just breathe normally. What I want you to do is to visualize the connection between the third eye, which is the seeing beyond what we can see with the eyes, and then the connection with the root energy, which is part of that anger that I felt, but also part of where the life starts and the fuel starts, right? So we are connecting the third eye, which is the subtle energy connected to spirit, connected to seeing, with the visceral energy of the soul, of embodiment, of everything that was never ever burst through us in that soul vessel, that individualized soul consciousness that we came in with. And I just want you to sit for 5 minutes, closed eyes, and breathing naturally and ping-ponging, so that you get the connection between the third eye and the perineum, and feeling into that marriage between embodiment and awareness, between spirit and soul, between masculine and feminine, between presence and Shakti and movement. And that's where we're starting the alchemy to be welcome. Some of you might feel that you're so used to meditate and be in this presence, and some of you might have a life where everything is about embodiment and chaos and movement. So this is a way of creating an alchemy. And you might also feel that some days the connection is a ping pong, and some days it might really just be more like that kind of breathing that we did, like a wave that's there. Some days you might feel a bit of the kundalini, just like shaky energy. So whatever wants to move in you. And then once you're done, I would invite you to just stand up and allow any kind of movement, any kind of sound. If you need to do some fire breath, whatever you need to do in order to integrate whatever was there, you can do it. Or you might feel that you feel so peaceful and you just want to lay down on your yoga mat before the day starts, or you just want to lay down in your bed and go into the dreams, and maybe there's a tear that comes out, like in the story. And this is just a commitment to yourself of starting to say yes to and commit to that inner alchemy that is going to allow you to go wherever you need to go, whenever you need to face it, and knowing that when you do that, there is a reward on the other side. But I would like you to feel that in you and not take our words for it. Whether you're coming in or not, you have at least 7 days to do this. And if you're coming in, we're going to have other exercises, other different little rituals that are not going to take so much time, but it's cultivating this mystical way of living through the altar of the body, the temple of the body, but also can be some of the outside things that are also just reminding us in the mundane that the sacred and the spiritual is there as well all the time.
Just one last little thing is, through this work, discovering that our inner and outer masculine really wants this holding of the dark feminine. So it's not a battle. There's two parts in the story. There's the father in ourselves that throws the daughter over the cliff. And this is us going, no, I won't look at it. I won't. I'm throwing you over the cliff. You're disgusting. You're breaking the rules, blah, blah, blah. And the other one is the hunter. He's running. He's doing everything he can to get away. And then he thinks he's safe, and there she is. So that's another part, a masculine part. So through this journey this week and through these stories, we get to meet these masculine parts of ourselves and decide we're going to be that hunter who puts the bones all back in order and shows love and compassion, kindness. Touches that deep, lonely place in ourselves as well that wants that connection. So that's a whole other layer, working with the masculine. And it's been wonderful, as always, Bella. I do love being in your company. So thank you. And thank you, everyone who's come along and who signs up. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, so just that practical part again. So you can sign up today. Tomorrow, the price is going to be normal price again. Right now, you have the coupon that allows you to get $18 off, which is the gene key of integrity and perfection. So if you feel like, oh, I'm ready, you can sign up now because the price is changing tomorrow. I also invite you to go back and listen to the story again, because sometimes when you're in your own field and maybe in an environment that you have set up that feels even more safe, you might be able to go deeper into the story again. So please use that, or if you need instructions again for how to do the tennis ball alchemy, you can go back to that as well. If you are ready, we are going to be here. We're starting in exactly a week, and we're going to go almost all the way to Christmas. And thank you again, Alison, for your storytelling and your ability to have me actually slow down a bit when usually I'm quite quick in everything that happens. I'm so grateful for allowing me to slow down and actually reflect a bit, and not only like a contemplation from here, but like a physical and an emotional contemplation on the dance that is going on, and that sometimes I'm too quick to really savor completely. So thank you for that and for doing this with me.
Let's savor the dance. My final words.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully see you soon. Bye.